So we have the new P2JB, the first implementation of Patience to Jailbreak, which is the new kernel exploit, compatible up to firmware's 12.70 on the PS5. Of course, it does have the big downside of taking multiple hours to load, about 2 hours roughly to get this kernel exploit loaded on your PS5. But of course, it works up to 12.70, and we'll likely see other implementations soon that will work with other userland exploits, like we could use this with the YouTube jailbreak to jailbreak up to 12.40. We could use this with the YARP exploit with Arcade Spirits The New Challengers, or Don't Starve Together Console Edition, or the Japanese Lua games to jailbreak up to 12.70 with this. And also, of course, you could unpatch the Blu-ray jailbreak with this exploit. And then for people up to 12.0, you could then use the Blu-ray jailbreak with the older Poops kernel exploit to jailbreak normally within a few seconds. So you guys have that additional benefit as well without having to use Star Wars Racer Revenge. The ironic thing though is that this first initial release of this exploit actually uses the Star Wars Racer Revenge exploit. So the first implementation uses Star Wars Racer Revenge. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how to set this up in this video. This is still the very early initial release version, and we don't have KStuff support yet, which means we cannot actually, run our PS4 fake packages or our PS5 game dumps up to firmware 12.70 until KStuff is supported on those firmwares. So still a little bit longer to wait till you really have the full jailbreak functionality. But I'll go ahead and just show you how to get the initial release version set up, and we can see if we can actually get this running on my console here. So in order to run this, we need first of all to download the latest update to Lua Core, which now supports 12.x and 13.x kernel offsets, as well as an updated ELF loader, which works up to 13.20. So we need to go ahead and download the Lua Core 2.2d.zip file from this repo. If we head back to the main page, we can also go into the payload section, and we have the P2JB.lua, which is the kernel exploit, which was added by Chiburik 3000. So all you need to do is click on the Lua file and download the raw file and get that downloaded as well. You'll also need Netcat GUI or some kind of payload injector, which I'll also leave a link to in the video description. So you can check to make sure you're on a compatible firmware by heading into the system settings, system software and console information, and here you will find your system software version. I'm on 12.0, but again, you can do this up to 12.70. So as long as you're on firmware 12.70 or below, you will be able to run this jailbreak if you have Star Wars Racer Revenge for this first release. Next, you also want to go down to your update settings and make sure you have download update files and install update files both unchecked so you don't accidentally update to a higher firmware. And I would also head to the network settings and uncheck the box to connect to the internet for now. Okay, so with that all said and done, all we need to do is load up the game Star Wars Racer Revenge, and then wait till you get into the main menu, close out of the game, go into your settings, plug in a USB drive into your PS5, and go to Save Data and Game App Settings, and then select the option to upload or delete from console, copy to USB drive, select your Star Wars Racer Revenge save file, and then copy that over to your USB. Okay, so if we plug that USB drive into our computer and then head into the PS4 folder, Save Data, and then you'll have this folder with a bunch of letters and numbers. That's your account ID. So you just want to copy that account ID, head over to the website garlicsaves.com, go to the dashboard section, enter a profile name, and then paste in the account ID into the account ID box and add that profile, and that will create the new profile. Then we head over to the resign section and select that profile that you just created with your account ID, open up the Lua Core zip file and extract the title ID for your game. In my case, that's 03474, which is the US version of the game. So if you have the European version, it would be the 034921 that you would extract. But in my case, it is going to be the 4741 because I have the US version of the game. And then from there, we can simply open up that folder, which contains our save data for the exploit. And then we just go back to garlicsaves.com again and drag those two files into the box here in Garlic Saves, and then start the resign process, which will resign those save files over to your user account. So just wait for that to complete. It may take a while depending on how busy the website is at the time that you're running this. So once it's done, it will give you a link to download the resigned save data. So you just download and open up that zip file that you get from the website, and then simply head back over to your USB drive, go into the account ID folder, and then the next folder that contains your save data, delete the save files that you exported from the console, and then replace them with the ones that you downloaded from garlicsaves.com. And that is basically all you got to do there. Simply plug in that USB drive back into the PS5, then simply press circle to go back to the previous menu and copy or delete from USB drive this time. And then we want to select our Star Wars Racer Revenge save and copy that over to the console storage. And that will get the exploit installed. And now you just got to wait for that to finish. So once that's done, we can simply head back over here to our network settings and get set up for the internet connection. So make sure you connect to the internet this time and set up an internet connection. And press options on your registered network, go to advanced settings, change the DNS settings over to manual. And I would recommend setting the primary DNS to 127.0.0.1. This will make sure that Sony's servers are being properly blocked, while still giving you a network connection that's going to be needed to send the Lua script over to run the kernel exploit. So we want to make sure we have a network connection, but no access to the internet to download updates. So now we can simply run our Star Wars Racer Revenge game. So once we get the game loaded up, we press the start button and then head down into the options menu. So select that first of all. Once you get into the options menu, there's another option called Hall of Fame that you need to select, and that will trigger the exploit. So we get mounting save data for Lua transition, USA version detected, and there we go, master core is initialized, and it is done. So you'll know everything's working when you see this appear on screen with the remote Lua loader. If you get some kind of error message instead, you just need to restart the game and try again. But here we go, it's working now. So it's listening on our PS5's IP address, so we can open up netcat GUI and copy the Lua P2JB file into the program and simply enter the PS5's IP address in the host box and the port number as 9026. And then we just inject the payload and that will start running the jailbreak on the console. And this is where the long wait begins. Now my watch begins, as you can see. So we're now 2 hours that we have to wait. So stage is patience, please wait for some time, and it says roughly 2 hours. It's not exactly 2 hours, sometimes it might be a bit shorter, a bit longer, but it's thereabouts. It's usually around about the 2 hour mark that you have to wait for this to complete, and then you just have to keep your fingers crossed that it's actually successful, because sometimes, just like any other jailbreak, it doesn't always work 100% of the time. So if it fails, you can get an error message. So when I first ran this, I got this error message where it started running it after 2 hours, and then I just got this message showing that it failed. I'm now running it a second time here, hoping that I'll be successful in my second attempt. I don't really have enough time for a third attempt, so if it fails, then unfortunately I'm not really going to be able to show the end of this. Okay, so I was eventually able to get it loaded successfully. So you can see here, this is what happens when it successfully loads. We get all of the other stages, including stage 3, kernel read-write achieved, and then we get our ELF loader loaded. And the ELF loader is now running in the background, so you can safely close out of Star Wars Racer Revenge now. After it's loaded, you will also have access to the debug settings in the settings page. As you can see there, debug settings is enabled. But also you have the ELF loader, so you can now send any supported payloads, any payloads that support up to 12.70. You will be able to load them. I'll just use the FTP server payload as an example. You basically just drag the payloads in that you want to run, the ELF payloads, and change the port number now to 9021, and then inject the payload. And then when we go ahead and eject that there on the console, you can see we get the notification serving FTP. And then all we need to do is open up something like an FTP client like FileZilla or WinSCP, enter the IP address of the PS5 in the host box, and the port number is 2121. And then we can quick connect and access the root file system of the PS5. There'll be a bunch of other payloads that you can run already up to 12.70, but the big one that we're waiting for will be KStuff, which will allow us to then run our PS4 fake packages and also our PlayStation 5 game dumps. We'll be able to load those once we have KStuff support up to 12.70, but we'll just have to wait because it might take a little while for that to get ported. And to try and avoid having to reload the jailbreak multiple times, you can put the console into rest mode and then recover from rest mode instead of turning the console off and back on, so that it retains the jailbreak when it recovers from rest mode. That way you will not have to run it as often, given the fact that it takes a couple of hours to load. So that's how you get the exploit up and running with Star Wars Racer Revenge with the initial release version, but obviously we need to wait for KStuff to get support so we can then run our PS4 fake packages and PlayStation 5 game dumps up to firmware 12.70, as well as this getting ported to other userland exploits that are more convenient to use, like the YouTube jailbreak and potentially other ones as well. So hopefully we will see that fairly soon, maybe some stability improvements too, so that it doesn't fail as often when you run it. So you can hopefully just run it once and within 2 hours it will succeed. But anyway, that's going to do it here for this one. So hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I will hopefully see you guys in the next one.